Thank you, Governor Romney. The joint efforts of Detroit and Michigan provide a double assurance of the financial ability and stability of Detroit, USA, to put on the finest celebration of any city in the world.
The Olympic Games. Hosting an event of the sheer physical scope of the Olympics is a big job for any city. An enormous job, requiring not only proper facilities and financing, but also firm resolve on the part of the entire community. A can-do resolve, rooted in a can-do record of comparable achievement. Before a city can properly host and handle the Olympic Games, it must understand fully what those games are, and always have been, and always must be, if the basic ideal of the Olympiad is to be properly preserved and presented. The Olympics are far more than a major athletic event. It is vitally important to perpetuate the ageless ideal behind the Games and the larger role they play in kindling the flame of international peace. Detroit, USA fully understands what it is asking to do. Detroit knows that it is asking to take on a sacred trust, one that transcends logistical considerations that reach into every resource of the city, important as those practical considerations are. Detroit, USA has the people who know the importance of following through, just as we have always followed through in time of world, national, and community need. We are proud of our record of getting big jobs, seemingly undoable jobs, done. It's a record unsurpassed by any city anywhere in the world. But not surprising when you consider that Detroit pools one of the world's greatest reservoirs of organizational talent, the kind of men the country and the community have called on before to move mountains, and who ask only, where would you like them moved and by when? These men are attracted to Detroit by the unique demands of America's #1 industry, the pivot point of the nation's economy. The kind of men who like nothing better than being told something can't be done because they've never done it before. For example, it was said that no city could ever coordinate its various charitable fundraising efforts into a single unified drive and realize anywhere near the money needed. Detroit did it and is still doing it. Detroit's United Foundation Torch Drive has raised more money for charity than any city in the world. $20 million last year alone. More important, Detroit has surpassed its goal every year without a single year's exception for 14 consecutive years. An unparalleled example of follow-through on every level of Detroit's civic and business life. Remember 1945? When the big job was to get the national economy back on course? There were dire predictions from every quarter that Detroit couldn't reconvert its assembly lines to peacetime needs and peacetime production almost overnight to get the country back on the road. Detroit did that too, gaining a reputation for its ability to shift its gears under the press of deadline and the pressure of need. We remember the time when it was said that Detroit, because of its preoccupation with building cars, could never become a culture center. Detroit has not only attracted as residents celebrated sculptors and artists, internationally famous architects, writers, and musicians, it has become a showplace for their works. Detroit has attracted the arts at large. In the world's most beautiful theater, the brand new Fisher, many of the season's biggest hits fill this auditorium to capacity prior to opening in New York. The beautiful, acoustically perfect Ford Auditorium is the home of the world-famous Detroit Symphony Orchestra. And Detroit is host to and supports the Metropolitan Opera, a cultural high point which some said Detroiters would never attend. Big jobs. In 1960, Detroit got 1,400,000 people to come and look at its cars by hosting the most successful national automobile show in history. Can Detroit, USA do all that needs to be done by 1968 in order to ready itself fully for the Olympic Games. Already, the big job is in the hands of the people. 322 ranking members of the Detroit community are hard at work as a committee and underway to get the big job done. Aroused Detroiters everywhere are making their voices heard, sending in petitions by the thousands upon thousands, pledging their support. As a group and as individuals, Detroit citizens with their flair for organization are rolling up their sleeves. Picking up the job of telling the Detroit story are men like Mr. John F. Gordon, President of General Motors Corporation, Mr. Henry Ford II, Chairman of the Board, Ford Motor Company, Mr. Lynn Townsend, President Chrysler Corporation, and Mr. Richard Cross, Chairman of the Board, American Motors Corporation.
Great strength has been added to Detroit's bid by the able and responsible leadership demonstrated by our governor, who by rallying bipartisan support affirmed the spirit of community cohesion that exists between Detroit and Michigan. Now I'd like to ask Governor Romney to conclude our presentation.
You know, a champion must not only have the ability to win, but the will to win. And certainly the city that is host of the Olympics must have the same two things. Detroit has demonstrated beyond doubt that it has the resources and facilities. We're in shape to move, but let me emphasize that we have much more to offer than physical facilities. Detroit's the city of champions. The whole world knows that Detroit is the American city whose products have revolutionized our way of living. And only in Michigan will you find the men and women whose talent made us the arsenal of democracy in wartime and the economic pace setter in peacetime. We not only have a firm program to finance the finest Olympics anywhere and the talent to organize them, but we also have the united will to do so. Our will to win has made us champions. We've proved by actions and not words that Michigan and Detroit are responsible and resourceful and are entitled to the designation we received last fall. We've rallied as never before in recent history. We have the tools, we have the spirit, we have the people to do the job in keeping with the classic tradition of the Olympiad. Your committee is meeting here today because it has been claimed that Michigan and Detroit are financially unable to carry on a successful Olympiad, that we can't make good on our promises, that we are unworthy of your faith and trust in originally designating Detroit. The issue of reconsideration faces you with a decision just as vital to us as the question of whether or not Detroit shall be the United States site for the Olympiad. It also has a moral and ethical aspect. You are asked to reconsider your decision on the grounds that we are not financially or otherwise able to put on the Olympic Games, that our plans are only paper plans, that we either don't intend or are not able to do what we have said we will do. In other words, it's not now a simple question of whether Detroit should be selected as a site. It's also a question of whether Detroit is capable of being a site. The meeting here today is not because some other site has come forward to claim that it could do a better job than Detroit and Michigan in putting on the Olympics, but rather because it was claimed that Detroit and Michigan were not worthy to be considered. I'm sure you'll agree that this is an unsportsmanlike attack. I believe you can see that if for some reason your Olympic committee now withdraws your support, it would give Detroit and Michigan and the people and officials who have rallied to retain what was awarded them last fall an undeserved black eye. It would substitute poor sportsmanship for the fairness and honor that is the essence of the Olympics. It would confirm the attacks that have been made. It would injure us irreparably. Gentlemen, to the people of Detroit, of Michigan, of the Midwest, and of the people of the nation and the world who know and respect the spirit of the Olympiad, you owe your continued support of Detroit as the United States 1968 designee. I solemnly assure you that we will not fail you in any way and that we will surprise you with our outstanding handling of the games. On the basis of our integrity and welfare as a state, I beseech you to stand by your earlier decision and reject its reconsideration. Thank you very much.
You have just seen highlights of a Detroit Olympic presentation made before the United States Olympic Committee in New York. This presentation played a major part in winning for Detroit the right to be the host city for the United States when it goes before the International Olympic Committee in October.